As 2022 draws to a close, I thought it would be interesting to look back at my predictions from the year from the start. January, I put out a video saying this is what I think is going to happen in 2022. So I thought we'll go back, look at some of the best predictions and see how wrong I was. And then at the end, I'm going to do just a little review, my thoughts of the year in general, because I think about it a bit differently from lots of people. And so we're going to talk about that as well. Let's get into my first prediction from the start of the year. First up, let's talk Gen 12 renderer, my favourite topic, and Vulkan. In theory, we should get this in the next few patches. A full implementation should be on its way. But, like always with Star Citizen, I'm going to reserve the right to delay. And so in this case, I'm going to say confidently, that's obviously a silly thing to say, I'm going to say confidently, I think we will have this year, but I think it probably will be towards the back end of the year by the time actually Vulkan is in and everything is done. Well, that wasn't a good prediction. We've kind of got Gen 12 renderer in the PTU with 318 at least, but we do not have Vulkan anywhere near, really. It's going to be 2023, we think, at this point. And so that was a bad prediction. Let's move on to the next. Second thing, let's talk about server meshing. Now, server meshing has obviously been in development for a while. I think if we are lucky, we'll see the basic implementation by the back end of this year. We'd have to be really lucky. There's not a great chance that it will all come in, but CRG are talking more and more about Pyro, and I think they think at this stage that they will get it in 2022. This one's tricky. I'm going to kind of count this as a correct prediction-ish. We obviously don't have server meshing in any way, but at the time I made that video, we had no idea what was to come with Chris's letter from the chairman, all the PES stuff, the persistent entity streaming malarkey that we've had. And so, really, PES is the first implementation or the start of server meshing. It's required. CRG have talked about this for a while. It's the requirement before we get to server meshing. So, on that sense, I'm kind of was right at that point. The thing that's obviously was way off is Pyro coming at the end of the year. I said that was very unlikely. I actually think it's much more likely to come at the end of next year, and that would be lucky as well. So, I was kind of not wrong, and I was completely wrong at the same time. The dynamic events that they're obviously ramping up at the moment with Jumptown 2, they will continue to come, and it seems that the game is actually in a state where they can keep adding these to the game, which is a good thing. This one was a pretty good prediction. We did see Siege of Orison, which is, another dynamic event, and Jumptown has continued to develop, and actually in 318, which is only in PTU still, but we are going to have more and more development of that dynamic event. So we've also got the security post-Korea stuff that is effectively an ongoing dynamic event in 318. So yeah, CRG have continued to push on that, and really that's bringing some of the only gameplay in the persistent universe for a lot of people. Salvage? Will we get salvage? I'm going to say no. I think it's probably such a meme at this point, salvage, that I'm going to just continue to say no. For some reason, it will be delayed. Even though it's tentatively on the roadmap, the Vulture, Drake Vulture is coming at some point, I'm going to say, for some reason, because it just seems to be impossible to get out the door, we won't get salvage this year. So this one, depending on how you look at it, is both right and wrong. We haven't technically got it in a live server, but we do have an actual early implementation of salvage on 318 in the PTU. We have hole stripping, it works, is it fun? I don't know if it's fun, but it is a thing to do in the game. And so we have to say, after many, many years of waiting and hoping for salvage, we've at least got the start of it, and obviously the hope is to get the other aspects of salvage as the next year goes by. I don't think we'll hear much about Squadron 42 again. That would be my guess. I think they're not going to be done in the next year. Obviously Chris Roberts and everybody has moved across to the UK to finish off the game, but I think that's going to be a while. Yeah, this was pretty accurate. We didn't hear much about Squadron 42 really through the whole year. The only things we did see and hear about were at CitizenCon, the whole Chris and Richard Tyra hours-long talk that covered some really basic kind of parts of the game that they're reworking for Squadron 42, and that will eventually make it into the PU. But again, based on that, it's miles off. At least I'm not expecting to see Squadron 42 next year, but yeah, what can you do? I think generally this is the game will grow, more people will come into the game, The free flies are getting better, I think, in my experience, and more people are trying out the game. CIG will probably make more money than ever. They're doing well. 2020 was big. 2021 looks like it's going to be a big one again, and I would expect 2022 to be another one. The marketing team is in full swing. They're doing a very good job, which ultimately is a good thing. I'll have a point for this one. The game made more money than ever. There was more exposure for the game. YouTubers were playing the game and checking it out and being amazed. They'd get millions of views, and then probably 2 weeks later they'd moved on to something else. But that's the way this works. But more people played the game. The free flights were more and more populated, and so we've got to say, overall, what CRG are trying to do in terms of the marketing, they succeed and they're good at it. So as much as it can feel a bit icky sometimes, the way that the game is funded is clearly working, and ultimately we want the game to be funded. Nobody at this stage wants them to run out of money. At least I definitely don't want that to happen. So well done. I'll be one of the only people to say this. Well done to the CIG marketing team. So now on to my thoughts for the year overall. Here's a poll that kind of shows a snapshot of the small part of the community that answer my polls, what they think of the year. Obviously, you've got a lot of people there who weren't particularly impressed with what happened this year. And I just want to buck the trend slightly and say, I think this was an actual critical year for the project. From a content point of view, from a player's point of view, it was not good. We obviously didn't get the normal 4 patches that we get through the year, and the amount of content we got was really limited. It wasn't much fun to play the game, but I think this year might go down as we look back at one of those critical years where they got some really, as devs, as CIG, they got some really critical stuff done in the background, and it was a pretty rubbish year to play the game, but stuff, all the PES stuff, they had to do this. They had to make it work. Obviously, we've been talking for years about things like iCache. That seems like it didn't really work out, as they told us. And this looks as though it is in the PTU, but it is working. Things will... Chris's famous coffee cup, leave it in a forest and come back. It will be there, and it does seem to work as long as you get back on the same server. So I personally think this was a good year for Star Citizen, but it just wasn't a good year to be a Star Citizen player. It was good for the dev team. They'll look probably back at the year and think we got some really significant stuff done this year. It seems crazy to be talking about foundational technology for the game so many years in, but really what we have now in the 3.18 branch or whatever, if everything goes to plan, the game won't look anything like this, or it won't play anything like it does now. It won't be structured in the same way that it is now, if they can actually get server meshing in and then go from there. It really is. It's not the bottleneck that then allows a flood of content to come. I think it's the bottleneck that allows them to actually start making the game that they really want to make. I think what we have now, people joke about it being a tech demo, but there is a certain amount of truth to that. It will, in theory, dramatically shift as the server counts or the server numbers go up, as the servers can support more things going on in different areas, as we can get all these different things going on, if we can get more star systems in. In theory, what we have now is, let's make up an analogy on the spot. Maybe we have a horse-drawn carriage now, but hopefully, as the years go by, as we do this critical behind-the-scenes tech, we're going to end up with an electric car, let's say. I think the risk is that next year might be pretty much the same with all the server meshing stuff, in that it might not be that fun to play the game, but it might be another critical year for the project from a development point of view. If you like the normal sort of stuff we do here, the technical look, testing Star Citizen, please subscribe, like the video. You can become a member if you want to support the channel with money, which is wonderful. Thank you to all of you guys who support. Absolutely means so much to me. And then also join the Discord, because there's lots of people there who will be able to help out with any Star Citizen building, PC needs, all that sort of stuff. Thank you very much, and I'll see you soon.